And we're live. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. We have a very special episode tonight. I'm stoked. I got to meet Joe Stone just maybe like a month ago. And this was, we had a little flying session over at Torrey Pines. And it was a fun little day of flying. And I looked over and I see Joe. He's sitting in this like contraption. It's like a three-wheeled it looked like a three-wheeled trike, but a longer trike. And I'm like, wait a second, this guy's about to launch with some wheels. And I'm into, whatever latest and greatest thing. So I'm like, what's going on over here? And so I just asked him, and I kind of bumped him. I was like, hey, is it cool if I film your launch? Because I'm interested, and I see him set up, and he just flies off the cliff, Torrey Pines, and sends it. And I remembered back to maybe a year ago or so, and it was him and a couple other guys that were flying these three-wheeled contraptions, and so it's kind of like a trike for free flight. And I'm like, no way. And so, anyways, we got to talk, and he mentioned that he was a part of Project Airtime, and I told him that we had Chris Santacroce at some point. He was on the show, and the rest was history. And so Joe Stone is with us tonight. So excited that you're here. He's actually up on top of the mountain. Joe, can you show everybody where you're at?
Yeah, I'm over in Idaho. There we go. Blowing out windsocks. So a beautiful evening. Just helping somebody get off the hill, and had a better signal up on top of the mountain than I did down below. So I'm on the road. So I'm in my truck right now on top of the mountain.
I love it, bro. And I apologize if it's flyable right now and you're sitting here talking.
No worries. Nothing but sled rides this evening. So all good.
Nice.
Yeah. Not that sled rides aren't fun, but it's easier to pass up on that than really being able to get out there.
So I do got to do a couple formalities real quick. This show is sponsored by a few different people and a few different organizations. And so I really appreciate everybody who supports the show financially on Patreon, and also the people that support the show in the sponsorship. So if you're interested in sponsoring the show, you can do that. Go to paraglidingtalk.com/sponsors and get on the list, and I'll announce your whatever it is that you're wanting to sell. But anyways, this show is brought to you by flymyppg.com. If you're anywhere in the Michigan area and you're interested in powered paragliding, reach out to Mike Cotter and the guys at flymyppg.com. The show is also brought to you by ParaOrange Products, paraorangeproducts.com, paragliding products for parapilots by parapilots. And you can go to paraorangeproducts.com for all kinds of paragliding needs. He's got a whole new store. If you haven't been to the website in a while, you need to go check that out. The show is also brought to you by ppgsmoke.com. Ryan Roberts has made a newer version of a smoke machine and chase cams, and he's working on some electric paramotors. Even there's all kinds of cool stuff coming down the pipe. Go to ppgsmoke.com. He also donated 52 of the smoke machine units to the show. He said, I want to give away one every show for a whole year. And the total came to like $10,000 worth of equipment. And so he's donated that to the show. If your name is in the list, you need to go to paraglidingtalk.com and get your name on that. Go to paraglidingtalk.com/contest. Show's also brought to you by Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, reach out to Brandon McCloud on Facebook. Tri-State Skywalkers Flying Club aims to help out the locals with friendship and organization. If you're interested in starting your own club, Brandon will give you all kinds of tips and how to do that. He sent me a shirt. He sent me a couple shirts, and I really like them. If you're really nice to him, he'll send you a shirt.
They need to make underwear like these shirts, man. They're just so soft.
I know, man. Yeah. Well, the show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, no better place to get the proper training than iflyindiana.com. Kevin and his team will help you get your feet off the ground. Check out iflyindiana.com. Also, Paramotor Tools, LLC. If you're looking for a way to keep your motor running, have the tools that you need with you when you're flying. Paramotortools.com has what you're looking for. They've got tools that you can mount to the side of your paramotor in a small convenient pouch, and you'll be able to make the repairs you need wherever your flight may take you. Paramotortools.com. I do also want to say before my brother's in the chat complaining about he wants a shirt. Paraglidingtalk.com t-shirts. I'm not selling the shirts, but I do give them away on occasion. And so I literally make them right here. So that's why they're a hot commodity. But I will make you one, my brother. I will make you one. Send me your address and send me your shirt size. I should know that, but I don't. So just text me. Tom Kubat is in the chat. Tom, I'm going to send you an invite if you want to join us. Remember your email. Yes, we're also going to be giving away a Toe Pro tonight. We got some new Toe Pros. Sean, can you find out Tom Kubat's email in the put it in the private chat? Joe Stone. Joe Stone has a foundation. It's joestonefoundation.org. You can find that link in the description. He's got all kinds of awesome stuff that he does for the flying community. And there's something a little bit interesting. I mean, I think it's pretty rad. He's got, he does all kinds of stuff. I found out, I had to do a little research because he doesn't boast in his own stuff. I had to dig a little bit, but he does some motivational speaking. If you don't know Joe Stone was injured in a speed flying accident, and his legs don't work anymore. And also part of his hand is kind of jacked up, and he's just as badly still fascinated and addicted to flying as all of us are. And he still sends it often. And right now I'm super jealous. Actually, he's actually on this epic road trip and like nonstop journey of just a constant adventure. And so I want to encourage you to follow him on Instagram, Joe Stone. Is that all it is?
Joe Stone.
At Meet Joe Stone.
Yeah.
And I don't have that link in the description. Maybe I'll put that in afterwards, but you need to follow him. And he's got all kinds of stuff. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And so I want to dive right in. The first question, and I ask this of everyone: how did you end up flying the tablecloth strings, and how did you get into the sport?
Yeah, great question. This was back in 2008, I believe. I'd been I had known about base jumping for a really long time, since I was like maybe 12 years old. I saw it on National Geographic, some guys jumping some huge cliffs. And I remember thinking to myself, that is the coolest thing in the world. And, but only heroes can do that, right? That's not something anybody can do. Well, as I got older and I started, things on the internet started growing a little bit more, becoming more readily available. I started seeing a lot of base jumping online through videos I was searching. Facebook wasn't really a thing yet, but I was just, searching on YouTube and everything. And as I started searching more and more, I started realizing, hey, if you want to base jump, like there's a way to do it. There's a way to go learn it. It starts with skydiving. So I originally got into skydiving out in Minnesota, and the whole goal was to get into base jumping and in time wingsuit base jumping. That was my main focus. And so I never really considered myself a skydiver. I felt like I was really just working through the motions to get the skills down in order to take it to where I wanted, which was into the mountains. In 2009, I decided to leave Minnesota and head out to Montana. So I packed everything up in my truck, and wasn't the first, nor will I be the last, to drive out there with no job, no place to stay, not knowing anybody. But I just showed up with all the gear in my truck and dirt bagged it for a while in the truck until I got a job and then got an apartment and everything. But the problem was there wasn't as much skydiving going on as what the internet kind of made it seem like there was going on. So I was having a hard time getting enough jumps in. So one day I was hiking my local mountain and saw some paragliders and hang gliders launching, and was just like, what is this? Like, I had no idea what the world of free flight really had to offer. through that, I did some research, found out about speed flying. That really attracted me, and so I went and learned how to speed fly. And that was how I was going to continue working on kind of canopy skills, learning weather, the mountain weather, being able to land exactly where I want to land, all of those necessary skills that you need, minus the free fall time, to kind of stay as current as possible, still wanting to base jump. But then I started it, and like I just fell in love with it. I didn't realize speed flying was going to hook me the way it did, and all of a sudden it was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. I can just hike to the top of a mountain and go fly. So that was the start of it. It was right then. Yeah, so just getting into skydiving through to speed flying.
So, what hill? And welcome, Tom Kubat. Tom, this is Joe Stone. Joe, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
What was the hill, and where was that? I missed that part.
Yeah, so I moved out to Missoula, Montana.
Okay, Montana.
And so there's 2 sites there that you can fly right in town. It's pretty cool that you can fly like right in town there, and that's Mount Sentinel and Mount Jumbo. And so I was hiking up Mount Sentinel, and what is it? It's like 1,800 feet or something like that, and got to the top, and some people mostly hang gliders were getting ready to launch. And so I sat back and just watched and just kind of took it in, and from there was pretty blown away at how easily they got off the hill. And then what opened my mind to it was like, that's actually flying. Like skydiving, you're falling, and I don't know that I ever felt like I was flying, but I really did enjoy the canopy ride of skydiving. But when I watched these guys get off the hill, and there was one paraglider with them, I was like, whoa, they're actually like staying up in the air. They're actually like going up right now. I had no idea that was a thing. And so that was right in Missoula. You're looking right over top of downtown Missoula, and it's super close and really accessible.
Okay, so from there you start just searching the web or talking to these guys. Hey, I want to fly. What do I need to do? You've already got some canopy skills. You take it to the next level. Where did you go from there?
Yeah, well, I actually went out I went out with my skydiving canopy lower on the mountain one day. I just wanted to kite it. And so I had some skydivers tell me like, hey, you can totally speed fly with the skydiving wing. 100% don't recommend it. 100% not promoting that in any way at all. Not a good decision. But that's what I was doing. You got to remember, this is 2010. So speed flying was really new. There wasn't a lot going on with speed flying. And even at that point, there were no ratings for mini wings or anything like that. So if you wanted to go learn to speed fly, you were getting your P2 through somebody that had a little bit of speed flying experience. So I went up one day and I had, my pack on my back, and there was a few pilots there that just landed, and they saw me getting ready to go up the hill a little bit, and they're like, hey, you getting ready to fly? I didn't know about like site rules. I didn't know there was a history behind these sites. I didn't know there was a club. I just thought this was a mountain we're allowed to fly off of. And so anyway, the guy pulls me to this. I'm like, oh, I got my skydiving. I'm a skydiver. I'm going to go do a little kiting. And he was like, whoa. Come sit down for a second. And he reeled me in. And so that was really great that he did that and sat down and chatted with him. And I told him, I want to learn how to speed fly. And so he gave me some direction as to where I could go and learn, and some websites so that I could go and do a little bit of research on it. And the fact that there are actually like speed flying wings that are designed specifically for this, and that, doing it with a skydiving rig is not a safe way to go about it. So that's when the journey started. I went and I learned how to speed fly, took a quick course on that, and then just was able to start flying in Missoula after that. Having a little bit of background in skydiving helped, because once you're in the air, it's somewhat similar. And so just in terms of the canopy, the glide's a little better with the speed wing, and obviously launching and all of that's different. But I felt pretty comfortable once I was in the air and actually started flying it and trying to land the wing and all of those components to it.
So, that's incredible. So you go up to the hill, you're like, hey, I'm just going to send it. And somebody stopped you, said, whoa, bro, hold on a second. There's rules.
Yeah.
You got to check
totally.
your pockets.
Yeah. I mean, he saw clearly I had something in my bag, that looked like I was going to fly.
Yeah.
And so, he reeled me in. I think that's the best thing that we can do in our community, right? Is if
Yes.
you see something that just doesn't look right, just have the conversation, just see what's going on. and throw some advice out if you've got some good, healthy advice to give to somebody.
Absolutely. And so did you end up flying that day?
No. I did not fly.
Did you bring out your wing?
No. I mean, he kind of told me a little bit about, like, you have to go through some steps in order to fly at these sites for one. One of that is you have to be rated, and
Right.
you can't just show up here cowboy style and just like do whatever you want on this mountain. So that shifted my mindset to, oh, this is more organized than what I realized. And even then, I didn't realize how organized it was. And but it allowed me to recognize I need to actually go and learn, and if I really want to do this, I need to do it, somewhat the right way.
So fast forward, you go to school, you get some training, speed flying training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Went right for the guts. Okay, so you get into a school. Is that also in Montana?
Yep.
Take us through that.
Yeah, well, I went and learned from a guy in Montana. Pretty quick. At the end of the day, it was a pretty quick session. We spent about a week out in a couple different areas of Montana, a couple different sites they had for training hills, and the main thing was just learn. We did a little bit of kiting and learned how to do some launches. Did launches on some smaller hills, and eventually worked our way up to one of the more popular main launches there in town, and sent that a handful of times, and then after that, got signed off with my P2 and was able to go and fly on my own. I will say, getting signed off with your I had this mindset of like, oh, I'm signed off now, I'm a good pilot, and that's just not the case, right? Like, I'm not a good pilot. I just learned, and so I went there thinking like nobody else. I had this big ego, right? I'm 25 years old. Nothing's gonna kill me. I literally thought in those days like I was gonna be the guy you see in these videos that has been in the sport for a long time, but they talk about that first 5 years and how they're lucky to have survived it, and they did so many stupid things and somehow escaped all of that, and then ended up, now they're an experienced pilot and they fly safer and they help mentor other people and all that. I saw myself that way, like, oh, I'm gonna have all these really risky, crazy moments, but I'll survive all of this, and I'll be good to go. And so on top of it, speed flying was new. There was only one other guy in my hometown speed flying. Everybody else paraglided. All the other paragliders really hadn't even been around speed flying, seen the speed wing. They didn't know if I could make it from the launch to the LZ with the speed wing. Nobody just knew anything about it. That definitely built up my ego more. Like, I'm doing this thing that's like way more radical and way more, it's new, it's fresh, it's like, faster and all of this. And so I did not, I mean, I'll fully admit it. And my biggest mistake was not taking the time to get to know the community, not really trying to find some people that were willing to help mentor me a little bit, not easing into it. The whole idea of flying today so we can fly tomorrow. My whole plan was go out and push it as hard as I could every single day, and basically scare myself as much as I could every single day. And from there, that's how I thought I was going to, develop the skills to be a good pilot. So that's all a recipe for disaster, which it proved to do just that.
Take us through the accident.
Yeah, so August 13th of 2010, I was flying on Mount Jumbo in Missoula. I was flying alone. There wasn't a lot, like I said, there's only one other speed flyer in town, and he had a full-time job where our schedules didn't line up too well. So often I found myself flying alone. And so August 13th, 2010, I was on the mountain. I was on my fourth flight of the day. I was really gung-ho. I'd get there as soon as it was flyable in the afternoon, and would time my hike/run up, get my wing laid out, fly down as fast as I can, then try to beat my time again, getting the other 1,000 feet back up the mountain. And so I was on my fourth flight that day, and apparently had chatted with some people that were hiking, things like that, and had 3 successful flights before that. And in this process, I was teaching myself barrel rolls at a low altitude. So, I mean, this is all, like I said, like there's none of this am I proud of, right? I just hope somebody takes from it and goes, whoa, maybe I should back off a little bit. If they're out there being a little too radical too early on in their flying career. But I just watched YouTube videos and was like, oh, that's easy. You just pull strings. I knew nothing about like energy management. I didn't know anything about really how to build up energy and how to allow that energy to dissipate after you come out of maneuvers. I didn't know anything about anything. So was doing them for about a week, somewhat successfully. Looking back now, I know the mistakes I was making in all of those. I just got lucky and pulled them off. But on that day, I don't actually remember the accident itself, but sounds like I did a wing or a barrel roll, pulled too hard, and part of the wing collapsed through the process. That created line twists, and I spiraled down out of control and crashed into the side of the mountain, at a pretty good rate. And with only about a half inflated, maybe a little bit more, 14-meter wing above my head, and crashed right on my back on the side of the mountain.
How far down the mountain were you, or how far up?
So I was, if I had to guess, I was somewhere in between like 150, 200 feet when I was starting the maneuver. And so you figure you come out of that, then you add in line twists and all that, you're coming down pretty quick.
Somebody,
sorry, what's that?
Somebody saw it?
Yep, got lucky. There was 4 or 5 people hiking on the mountain that day. This is also in the day when not everybody had a cell phone on them at every moment of every single day of their life. So
yeah,
one guy had a cell phone on him, and he happened to be the closest one to me, and he also happened to be a trained EMT. So
wow.
he ran over to me. Him and his friend ran over. They saw me crash. They heard the big smack into the ground and got over to me and started doing what they knew to do to, try to manage the situation as best as possible while they were calling for 911 to get a life flight helicopter and things like that activated to get them out there on the mountain. So I've heard the 911 call. You just hear me moaning and groaning in the background. He assessed my body. There was no bone sticking out, no blood anywhere. The main thing that he was able to recognize I had a full face helmet on, but he heard gurgling coming through my airway from my mouth. And so that just told him something was blocking my airway. And that's a pretty important thing. So he actually held my neck and my spine as stable as possible and had his friend slowly remove my helmet. From there, he was able to open up my mouth and scoop out some blood and some broken teeth that was inside my mouth. And in probably about 30 minutes or so, the life flight helicopter had landed, and they were hiking up on the mountain and were getting to me. So he basically, from that point, held onto my head and neck and just kept me as stable as I possibly can be and kept me from doing any kind of moving that I might have been doing. And then, it was pretty amazing because all in about maybe 45 minutes, give or take, they, from the call itself for 911, they had me in the ER in Missoula. So I was really thankful that I was flying right in town, that they were as organized as they were to be able to get there that quickly and get on the mountain and get me off as quickly as they did. It was a whole effort between the guy that saved my life and the life flight team, the ambulance services, and the firefighters that were on duty that day. So they all joined up at the base of the mountain, hiked up to where the helicopter was, and then they all hiked up to me probably 200 yards from where we would land speed flying or paragliding on that mountain where the LZ is. And then, from there, got me down to the helicopter, and they had me in the ER, and that's where they started really trying to assess my situation and figure out how to save my life at that point.
That guy saved your life, without a doubt.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And I've met him after, and we stay in touch a little bit. And without that guy there, so another 5 minutes, right? So collective effort. If that guy wasn't there, who would have made the phone call? And who would have, if it was somebody different, they might have moved my head around more. They might have moved my body. They might have done some things that caused a lot more damage.
Right.
And then, if the emergency services collectively weren't working so well together and weren't so prepared like they are,
right.
Different outcome. If it would have taken them 10 minutes longer, who knows?
Right.
So it was pretty, at that point, it was very touch and go. The question had nothing to do with my spinal cord or broken bones. It was like, can we just keep this guy alive?
Right.
That was the whole thing in the beginning.
So let's fast forward. You're in the hospital for months and months and months. They try to rehab as much as they can. They get you to the place where it's like, you know what? You're lucky. I hope you learned your lesson. You're still alive. Your legs don't move. Your hand is not going to be 100%, but you're okay. And they wheel you out of the hospital and say, behave yourself. you go out and you say, you know what? I really don't care. I'm passionate about flying. I'm going to fly again. I mean, where did you start?
Well, that's a pretty quick way to fast forward. So it didn't happen quite like that. So, while I was in the hospital, just to give you an example where I was at, once I was in a induced coma for about a month. My heart stopped twice in that process. I was on a ventilator for about 2 months. That was, through a trach in my throat. I broke 8 vertebrae throughout my neck and back. I had 4 broken ribs. I had a laceration to my liver. I had badly bruised both my lungs. They had to collapse the right one and stick a tube in the side and drain fluids out for about a week or so. I had messed up my heart due to the impact that had my heart thrown off. So I was on medications that was just managing my heart rate. So my heart wouldn't know when to slow down and speed up. So if you start from there, right, it's like the total unknown. Will I survive? Then it was, am I going to be on a ventilator for the rest of my life? Do I have to take these heart medications for the rest of my life? And a number of other things like that, right? So got past that, got off the ventilator, got off some of the medications, went through rehab, inpatient rehab, regained some muscle. I'd lost about, what did I lose? About 30, I want to say 35 or 40 pounds of muscle. And it was a pretty lean guy up into this. So when I got released from the hospital, I had regained not a lot of function, but I had regained a lot of independence. I could feed myself. I had figured out it would take me about 20 minutes or more, probably more like a half hour to an hour to get my pants on, but I figured out how to do that. Had a few things dialed in. When I got home, that's when it started. So now we're 4 months out. Then I had to start really learning how to be independent, right? How do I do basic tasks in my life? So for the first right out of the gate, I set a goal to be independent within 1 year. So that just meaning being able to get myself up and dressed and ready for the day. So I had purposely set aside any kind of fun goals, any kind of actual recreation, because I knew I needed to focus on getting my life organized where I can at least take care of myself to some degree. Had no idea what that meant. When I woke up from my coma, I thought it was going to be a nursing home the rest of my life, like done. So I had given up, right? So it wasn't, I'm going to get back into flying. As time went on, I learned a little bit more. I found some information online. I saw that, the seed was planted that some wheelchair users do paraglide, but I still didn't put any focus on that. 7 months after my injury, I became totally independent. Just the basics, up and dressed and ready for the day, nothing else. From there, I decided, whoa, I have 5 more months until the 1 year mark. What my goal was, because I couldn't risk any kind of impact, I was still very fragile. So my goal was to hand cycle to Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park, which is a 50-mile road up and over a big mountain pass, 12 miles of climbing. And I trained, by the time I got a hand cycle, I trained for 3 months. That taught me a lot more about life, about my strengths, about my weaknesses, what I needed to work on, how to become more independent. And when I got to the top of Logan Pass, after 8.5 hours of climbing, took 8.5 hours to go 12 miles, my mind was opened up. And I was like, whoa, okay, so here's how this works. I can do whatever I want, but it's going to look different. It's going to take different gear. It's going to take more support. I really need to rely on my communities, but I can do whatever I want. That sent me on a path of going whitewater rafting, off-road, adaptive mountain biking. I played quadriplegic rugby for a little while. I tried a number of other different sports. I got into triathlons. I set out to be the first quadriplegic to ever complete an Ironman triathlon. Didn't make it happen, but I was the first to ever compete in one, and that was in November of 2013. So now we're fast forwarding 3 years, a little over 3 years. And then after I got done with the Ironman, I totally got smacked in the face, didn't finish the swim in the amount of time I needed to, wasn't able to continue the bike or the run, and sat back and I thought, this has been a great 3 years, but none of this has grabbed me like flying. I think I need to do what I love, and I need to stop worrying about what other people might think about it. And I need to actually go and pursue getting back into flying. And what was really amazing was around that exact same time, Chris Santacroce reaches out to me over Facebook with a super simple message, says, hey man, I see what you're doing. I totally dig it. If you ever want to get back in the air and try paragliding, let us know, we're here for you. It was like as simple as that. Sat on that for a while, eventually set a date and went out in March of 2014 and started to learn how to fly with Project Airtime and through Chris Santacroce. So that was the start of the journey. So I didn't mean to derail where you left off there, but it was so much more than just going from hospital to flying. it was
Yeah.
quite the journey of trying to explore what's possible for me. What can I do? And as I got stronger and more independent, things started opening up, and I started recognizing, like, hey, this isn't that bad. Like, I can actually be a very active, motivated, driven person, and do some things that maybe most people don't want to do, but the things that I want to do.
There's a couple links in the description, by the way, if you want to go and check out some of his adventures, off-road or mountain biking. He's got, like he said, all of these little adventures, whitewater rafting. There's some videos on YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff. That's how I found out, what I know about Joe Stone. Part of the reason why I had to have him come on the show was because I needed to hear the story. It's incredible what you've evolved and where it went from kind of something, if you will, and pardon me if this sounds harsh, but a selfish ambition that you came into this thinking, I'm going to be the next star. You're going to see me on YouTube, but I don't really care about people, to this passionate person that you've become, and what you do for the community. And even with the challenges, it's not even like an end game for you. It's just, there's a little bit more of a challenge, and that's the only difference. And I was considering what I was going to talk about, and I thought to myself, this would be a whole different story if there was like some self-pity and, you're just there and, oh, I'm different than everyone. You're above it, and just, you've conquered it. And that's so inspirational and so powerful, and speaks volumes to everything that we do every day. I think that it's incredible. If you want to support Project Airtime, I want to encourage you to do that. They're a 501c3 as well. Go check out their website. The link is in the description. It's projectairtime.org. Please invest in that. Go check them out. The website has all kinds. Joe Stone's in there. There's a couple pictures of him flying with Chris Santacroce. We were going to crank call him during the show, but I know he'll answer. He's probably doing a tandem, and I don't want to be responsible because he will do it. He came on the show, and funny enough, when he was on, he had got locked out of the office. And so he was actually heading to his office to get on his computer to do the show. He ended up doing the show outside of his office with his phone. And I think was it like February? You guys remember that? And it was freezing cold, and he did the whole show in the freezing cold, and like a champ. And it was a really fun show. Go back. I don't remember what episode. It was like one of the first episodes, maybe 5 or 6, something like that. But go check that out. Real quick, just want to say, appreciate everybody who sponsors the show. Fly My PPG, also Para Orange Products. Para Orange Products is going to give away a windsock. They've got some new revamped windsock, so we're going to give that away. Sean, if you're ready, we'll pull somebody's name for that. And then ppgsmoke.com. We're also going to give smoke machine away at the end of the show. Don't forget about that. If you haven't already signed up, it's not too late. You can go to paraglidingtalk.com, put your name in the contest. So paraglidingtalk.com/contest. Tri-State Skywalkers also sponsors the show. And actually, David Wolf's with us. David is Paramotor Crazy on YouTube. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. With no notice.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I saw you in the chat. I was like, oh gosh, I need to have him on. Brandon couldn't be around, so he's going to represent for Brandon. Brandon's doing a tandem. He's doing
SIV course in Utah.
Yeah, SIV. Come on, somebody. I didn't know that until I saw something on his Instagram. You can also follow the show on Instagram, by the way, Paragliding Talk, at Paragliding Talk. The show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. You need to go check them out if you haven't already. And then also paramotortools.com. They're a sponsor of the show, and I really appreciate everybody who invests in the show. So let's talk a little bit about your transition from. Hang
on a minute here. We're not.
You got Sean with his hands tied behind his
What do you
back.
got, Sean?
You got me breaking my arm here, trying to mix these up. Tell me when. All right, come on now.
Okay, if your name is in the hat, if you said anything in the chat. So if you're just secretly lurking in the chat right now and you haven't said anything, your name's not in the hat.
Yeah, yeah. And once we do the drawing, there's no more writing of the names, which means I give my girlfriend a break. Okay, here we go. Acid Eric.
Acid Eric?
Yeah.
Acid Eric, congratulations, Acid Eric. Oh man, that is hilarious. I know who Acid Eric is.
He's
It's like 2 in the morning for him. He's in England.
Hey.
Yeah, he's a champ.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Staying up all night paid off. Or getting up super early, whatever you do. Congratulations. So you're going to need to reach out to Larry at paraorangeproducts.com. So Larry at paraorangeproducts, that's the email. And so collect your winnings. You won the new revamped windsock from paraorangeproducts.com. Congratulations. We're also going to give away, we've got some cool stuff, man. I love that people are investing in the show. We're going to give away a Toe Pro. Johnny Wisconsin made these. He's got some kind of machine shop, or what do they call it? They
3D print stuff.
it's not 3D printer, but it's they laser cut metal. I should know this because I'm a tin guy, tin knocker. Anyways, we're gonna give that away. So let's do
technology like CNC machines and stuff, and make this incredible scientific thing as a Toe Pro.
The Toe Pro. You need the Toe Pro. Oh, we got some more people. So we're gonna do best comment, and we'll come back to that. So you guys, David and Sean and Tom, you guys collab in the private chat about best comment, and we'll pull that, and they'll get the Toe Pro. Okay, so Joe, I was on a roll until we had to give stuff away.
I got a question for Joe.
Yeah,
Can I
bring
ask
it.
a question? So,
Bring it.
Joe, first of all, Robert said, you're an inspiration, and that's absolutely true. Your resolve, your strength, your courage is amazing. When someone like me has a small little minor mishap, there's times I'm thinking, I'm giving this all up. I'm not doing this again. Were you sitting in the hospital saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I just did. I'll never fly again. That was ridiculous. Or were you right back in the saddle? I'm going to be doing this again. And well, go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, so at that point, when early on, first memories, woke up from the coma, a month-long induced coma, and was on a ventilator, couldn't talk. So everything was very internal because I wasn't able to be vocal about anything. Because of my approach to getting into speed flying, not wanting mentors, not really seeking out more schooling, not wanting to take my time and progress and learn slowly. Because of all of these huge mistakes that I knew I was making, I just thought I was going to escape what people warn you of. When I was in the hospital, I was loaded with the heaviest amount of guilt because I 100% did it to myself. And I knew at that point the mistakes I had made. And I thought in the beginning there was no way I'm ever going to be able to fly again. Right? So it wasn't this decision that I made of I'm never, now I'm scared of flying. I'm going to choose not to fly anymore. At this point, it was, I just threw my entire life away, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a nursing home because of a series of bad decisions that I knew were bad decisions when I was making them. And so that was a really tough pill to swallow. And that really took about a year before I truly accepted that the accident was my fault, because I was doing a lot of, it was probably weather or mechanical, or I was trying to blame all these outside circumstances, until a buddy of mine in Missoula, who actually was one of my respiratory therapists in the hospital too, and he's a paraglider, hang glider, he cut me off in the middle of making some excuses and said, hey, no matter what, always pilot error. If it was mechanical, you're your mechanic. If it was weather, you decided to fly, you didn't check the weather good enough, it's always pilot error. And I remember in that moment thinking, wow, that's kind of mean, to throw that out there to me. But at the same time, as soon as I left, I really thought about it, and I was just like, he's right. He's right. It was my fault. There's no reason to blame anybody else. And that was the healing that I really needed in the process was to truly accept responsibility for what I have done, how it affected my community, how it affected my family, and take that on and move forward from there. But going back a little bit, it was a lot about in the beginning, once I became independent, so that 7-month mark, that's when I just said, you know what, my main goal was to spend the first year doing everything I possibly can, so that when I look back at my recovery, at my rehab, at whatever happened in that year, I know that I gave it my all, and whatever the outcome is at that point forward, then I can kind of make a decision on what life is going to look like. And that was the best thing I could have done for myself, was not saying I'm going to make all this stuff happen, or I'm going to fly again, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It was just, I'm going to just try and search for the unknown right now, and just really search for something. And so I just spent that first year searching, without any really not setting. I was setting goals, but I wasn't setting them in a way that if I didn't make it happen, that I was going to, it was totally going to crush me. I was well aware of the fact that I didn't really know what I was capable of doing. So did that answer your question? That's kind of how it started out for me.
Yeah, it did. It did. But it seems like you never had a doubt you're going to get back up in the air.
Well, so funny story. I found a guy I'm laid up in the hospital, right? I get up for PT and my occupational therapy, and the rest of the time I was spending laying down in bed. Main reason is I still have sensation throughout my whole body, but below my nipples, basically, it's like half numb. There's always a vibration or a hum in my skin. I don't feel temperature or pain, but I feel something. And so I would get into bed and I would actually strip off all my clothes because they really annoyed me having clothes on with the sensation that it was bringing. And I was so weak and tired that going to an hour PT meant I needed to take a nap and sleep. And so this was in the days of like spending a lot of time in bed. And I got on the internet and I found this guy in Canada that was a paraplegic that was that had learned how to paraglide from his wheelchair. And he had built a special trike for it and everything, kind of similar to what I have. And my dad came in the room right after I discovered this. We're talking, this is like 3 months after my injury, 3.5 months. And my dad comes in the door and I'm all pumped. I'm like, hey, check this out. This guy, you could still paraglide as a wheelchair user. And I'm all pumped. Well, long story short, this made him really mad. And I recognized that was way too soon to be bringing up the fact that I'm going to fly again. And that this is really hard on my family. In fact, it was harder on my family and my close friends than it was on me. And that I became aware of how much community matters, but how much we all affect and impact our communities with the decisions that we make. And so I set it to the side for 4 years and tried a whole lot of other ththings because I was just, I wanted to see if anything else could grab me the same way with that same level of passion that flying did. And I just never found it. And so eventually, I decided I can't live my life for other people. I need to get after it. Only now I'm going to have good mentors and I'm going to listen to people with more experience and I'm going to listen to what the community has to say. And I'm really going to try to learn and progress slowly. So I started it and continue it to this day with this totally different mindset than I ever had before, because I don't want to affect friends and family like I did from making those handful of mistakes. I don't ever want to do that again. Inherently what we do is dangerous and it comes with risk, but we can minimize that risk if we fly safely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big reason for the show. There's more than just going through a school, getting some instruction, getting a rating, and then, you're flying. You're never going to stop learning. There's always something. Every single episode, every show that we do, there's something you can take away. There's always something you can learn every day. Even if it is, I know we knock watching YouTube videos, but you can learn stuff from watching YouTube videos. I was watching a guy today and I picked up on some stuff and I thought, ooh, that's an interesting launch. Literally, the guy's flying a super hot wing. It's the Enzo 3. He's launching. He launched with the wing nose down. I've never seen this before. Literally pulls the brakes to get the wing to open up, and then he just pulls one brake on one side. The wing literally flips completely over, and by the time it's in the stronger wind, it's up over his head, and he's launching. It was insanity. But every time that we... where am I going with this? when we get to the place where we think I'm there, I've come to, it's a very dangerous place.
Totally.
Let's talk a little bit about how you progressed and who helped you. I mean, obviously you needed to, besides Project Airtime, where did you go to, I'm going to build a 3-wheeled contraption that's going to be able to, absorb a hard landing potentially, or something that can launch and not, rattle me so bad that I pass out before I even get off the hill.
Yeah, so leading up to the point of getting back into flying, it took a whole community to get me to where I was and to help me become as independent, as active, and as healthy as I was. So I always feel the need to throw out so much love and credit to all the people that really had supported me up until that point and continue to support me now. No, what do they say? No man climbs a mountain alone. It's 100% true. When you go through something like what I went through, it becomes very obvious that it really takes your community to help get you to where you want to go. So, taking those lessons that I was seeing and noticing through that, that was how I wanted to approach paragliding. And I didn't really know how to do it. And the best thing that could have happened was Chris Santacroce reaching out to me and saying what they've got going on with Project Airtime and welcoming me to come and join them. And I had no idea what that meant, right? I didn't know what kind of support was going to be there. I didn't know how he already had a trike. He had it all dialed in, figured out. I basically came there like any other pilot would go to learn paragliding, only I was going to learn the adaptive paragliding side of things. So yes, we had some things to problem solve. I think Chris had taught one other guy to, I think, paramotor before me that was a wheelchair user. And I came in there as the next guy saying I wanted to, really fly free flight, no motor, fly this trike solo and see how far I can really take this. And so there was some problem solving between the whole team. So there was Chris Santacroce and Turtle and Blake Pelton and Ben White. And oh man, I'm totally going to forget so many names. I'm not even going to try to. I'm just going to say the Project Airtime and Superfly team had supported me. They welcomed me in. They welcomed me into their family, and they helped me out. And they gave me great advice. They taught me amazing lessons. We had ground school. We did all the normal things that you would do to learn how to paraglide. There was just added elements to it. The cool thing about it, though, was in that process, not only was I learning how to progress slowly, how to really listen to mentors, listen to people with more experience, and sit back and do more listening than talking. That was a huge change in my mindset and getting going again in this sport, in this form of aviation. But beyond that, we didn't know where I was going to be able to go with it. So there was big dreams or hopes or whatever that I'd be able to travel and be paragliding on my own. But we didn't know how that was going to work. We didn't know how I could teach somebody else how to fly. We didn't know any of that. So we spent the first 3 years, a little over 3 years, flying the point of the mountain in Utah. I was living in Montana, so about once a month I would go down during the flying season, spring, summer, fall, and would spend about a week at the point of the mountain and would fly as much as I possibly could with all those guys and would learn as much as I can. But then I'd have to go home for 3 weeks without any equipment and soak it all in, come back the following month. Project Airtime totally supported me in that whole process and continue to support me today as a pilot. And so, without that level of support, again, wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, wouldn't be where I'm at, wouldn't be the pilot that I am today. And so, yeah, that I'll take a break there and see if you have any questions within that before we go any further.
Project Airtime is teaching somebody, or I'm not sure if maybe I think they're training somebody to paraglide. I saw it on Instagram just before we started the show. Go check out their stuff on, there's a link in the description. Then you can also follow them on Instagram, and it's just Project Airtime. Yeah, at Project Airtime.
Yep. And they taught four other people besides me now who have ratings, who fly, who can fly solo and are getting after it. So
when I first met you, this is the thing. I was such a brand new pilot. I saw you guys flying at Torrey, and for whatever reason, I didn't go up there and engage conversation as much. I wanted to, but I was such a noob and I was so scared and just And so a little bit about my background is I was the guy just like you, showed up to the hill, bought my own gear, started ground handling. You know, I was communicating with other pilots, but I was kind of trying to just avoid having to take a week and spend a bunch of money. And I took some hard hits. I full stalled at one point at about 10, 15 feet, landed on my back super hard. That was at Little Black. Ended up progressively I was getting better, but I was on a very dangerous path before I went and got instruction and a rating and all that. But I was always hesitant. So when I saw you guys, I think you were with two other guys. So there were three wheeled paragliding pilots in the air at Torrey Pines. Does that sound right?
Close. Two of us, me and
It
my
was
buddy
two?
Neil.
Okay.
You witnessed a very magical moment. That was the Chris had come up to Missoula one time with my buddy Neil and I and helped us fly my local mountain one other time. So we had a ton of experience at that point at the point of the mountain, flying both the north and south side. Had done no mountain launches other than I think 2 flights in Missoula. When we showed up at Torrey Pines that day, it was me, my buddy Neil, my buddy Christo, Josh Winstead, and a couple other people that joined up at that time. We had this whole team with us, and Harrison Rufin, he was a huge help. And that was our first trip with our own trikes. We had just picked them up in Salt Lake City. We had just dialed the trikes in Salt Lake City, flew them at the point of the mountain, and like hung in the simulator at Chris's shop, the Superfly shop, and then we drove to California to go on our first paragliding trip. Our first stop was Torrey Pines, and so we met up with everybody there, and the team was together for I think 8 or 10 days that we flew there. We flew Palomar and we flew Marshall Mountain. Chris came out to Marshall Mountain. He flew out for 2 or 3 days and did some thermal training with us. So those were our first like big air, big thermal. Let's get out there and try to go up for the first time, not just soar around and do sled rides. And I mean, you go up at the north side of the point of the mountain for sure, but not like this, not like what Marshall Mountain has to offer, and really thermaling that way. And so so when you saw us, that was like we were as fresh as it gets to flying new sites. And it was super awkward and uncomfortable, and I felt like I was starting all over. I didn't know anything about anything anymore. And we were teaching people how to launch us who had never launched us, but they had seen what was going on at the point of the mountain. And it was that first time of really exploring how do we travel and go fly other sites now that we've got the skills down, and become a paragliding pilot like everybody else who just happens to need a little bit more help. And thankfully our community is unreal, and everybody is more than stoked to help out. And I have received so much support now over the last couple of years since then, just going and flying new sites and doing all of that. But that was how that trip started. And yeah, I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure somebody in the wheelchairs may have probably flown Torrey, but we hadn't heard of it then, and they didn't really seem like they had heard of it then. When we showed up, there's a little bit of like, you're here to do what?
Yeah.
And you're a P3 and what? And what's going to happen? And how's this going to shake down? And, we had to assure them on everything, which was totally cool. And then we had a few amazing days there. The guys at Torrey, they were great. They were super supportive. And when I was there, just when I saw you recently, same thing. I saw Robin, I saw Gabe, and they were super stoked to have me back there. And their team actually helped, because I didn't have anybody with me at that point to help launch me. So, they had their guys help me launch and land. Coming into top land, it's nice to have somebody there to help me out just in case it's needed. And so I just radioed to them, and they put me on their frequency with just their employees. So they was coming into land, I just let them know, and somebody would come out and catch me. And that's how it is everywhere. Our community is amazing. I can't say that enough.
Yeah. You had a non-event. You just came in and landed. I don't think I even saw it. I was there, but I wasn't even, you just blended right in. So, I did get to fly with you. I've got some footage of that, and I got your launch, and I didn't know the guy who helped you launch, but he did a great job. And it seemed like you're almost able to do it without any help at Torrey. Did you ever try it?
We've done that at the point of the mountain. both
Really?
with speed wings and with the paragliders.
Wait, hold on a
Um,
second. You've flown speed wings with the
Totally.
3 wheels? No
Yep.
way.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't, I've done a decent amount of speed flying at this point. But I'm not willing to call myself a speed flyer yet because I don't have a speed wing with me all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's times where I have access to them. It works awesome with the trike. The
I was
speed
going to
wing's
say
great.
it's almost cheating.
Yeah, I mean, I can come in super hot on landing and just roll that thing out. Like
Yeah.
it's great. It's kind of like with skis. Like you can come in super fast
Yeah.
so the speed wings work great. So the issue is pulling the wing up. That's where
Right.
having somebody there helps. And so both, if you're doing like ridge soaring, something like that, it's gonna drag you. It's gonna drag those wheels. So that's where having somebody on foot to be kind of an anchor to help get you
Yeah.
turned around. We do a reverse, pull the wing up, turn around, and then I've had like Chris, like he'll just let go, and then I'll just manage the brakes and go a little light on the brakes, and eventually like I'll just start rolling down the hill and then just take off. And so it's solo as I've done it so far, but it works. You get the wing pulled up and you get it under control, and sometimes you have to steer the trike a little bit with the brakes, and yeah. So there's a couple guys that have done full on solo launches minus setting the wing up, and but it's kind of I look at it kind of as like a stunt, and like it's doable, it's super cool, but like why not have somebody there that could stop you if things didn't pull up right? And because getting off the ground, it's still fun, and honestly I find a really one cool part of it that I thought I was not going to like was it's like teamwork when you do it, and that there's a connection with the people that are helping me that I get when I get off the ground and I fly away. And I always make a note to like, it just happens now. I don't even think about it. I get in the air, and once I know everything's cool, I just turn over and I just tell them thanks. Sometimes that can be super casual. So the speed wing, it's like, thanks, man, like, cause it's kind of cruising away from the hill pretty quick. And sometimes the paraglid's just like, hey dude, thanks. I appreciate that. Cause they're just like right below me. It's cool. The teamwork side of it is what makes it fun.
How many hours do you have now? Free flight paragliding.
Yeah, so I'm not really a numbers guy. I don't really keep track of any of that. I've been flying with the trike since 2014.
2014. Nice.
Yeah, I've been this last year I've been very active in it because I've just been on the road traveling and flying as much as I possibly can. A lot of time at the point of the mountain before that, and doing a little bit of traveling. Not the year before. Honestly, I don't keep track of the numbers. There's a couple reasons for that. One, for me personally, I don't want numbers to get in my head to make me think I'm better than I am.
Very good.
And I do everything with Superfly Project Airtime. Chris Santacroce knows exactly where I'm at. All my new things or new moves or new things I need to work on, I go through Chris. He is such a solid mentor of mine, and he is 100% in the know of what I've got going on, and a number of other people as well. And so I personally, I just chose to just not allow those numbers to get in my head. I like to look at myself as always a beginner, even though I've got more experience now. And I've sent some cross country flights. I can thermal, no problem. I can get out there and be in the gaggle with other people and have fun and fly safely and not feel like I'm doing anything that's out of my skill level. For the most part, we always end up in a couple spooky moments when we're flying in the middle of the day. But but with that, I just when I feel like it's time to progress to something new or a little bit bigger or a little bit more intense, it's off of feel, not numbers.
Right.
It's off of feel and off of conversations with the right people.
I want to open up right here for questions and comments. And there is a couple questions, I believe, if the moderator, I don't know if you guys caught that or not.
Here's a question about do you fly with a reserve?
Totally. Yeah, I use a front mount reserve. So eventually I'm going to throw in a reserve in the harness itself, a spot for it. But the rear wheel is kind of rare. And so rear wheel is totally doable.
Darn it.
Snagged in that spot. So I fly with a front mount, so that when I grab that and I throw it, it's just clear of the trike and clear.
Okay,
of
you're gonna
everything.
have to say that again. Darn it. Yeah, it cut out.
Did it cut out?
So
Yeah.
you said I'm gonna throw a reserve. Were you meaning like I'm gonna do that on purpose at some point, or were you talking about in an emergency event you're gonna have to throw it? Okay.
Yeah, in an emergency event, if I had to throw a reserve, that's why I have a chest, a front mount
Got it.
reserve, right? Because the rear behind the reserve, there's
Oh man.
is it cutting out again?
We
Yeah.
must be asking the right questions.
So, try to just put it on audio only. Sometimes the audio will come through really clear if there's no video. Try that. If you can hear me.
Just one moment. Okay, can you hear me at this point?
Try that.
Anything there?
I can hear you.
Anything?
Yeah, it's kind of broken up.
Let me set this up here.
Instantly.
I'm gonna close this program for one
Yeah,
quick moment.
That instantly got better.
I've got a full signal.
Yeah, it's good.
Can we get a
You
better
can hear
signal
it
there?
real good.
Okay. Let's see if I turn this back on. So you guys can hear me
You're good, Joe.
now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So just to recap that, I use a front mount reserve because the reserve grabbing the handle on the side of my harness behind me, there's a little bit of a risk of it going into the rear wheel of the trike. So there's a little bit of a snag factor there. I am going to eventually throw a reserve in there. I don't think it's a bad idea to fly with 2 reserves. And in fact, I think it's a good idea. But for right now, I have a chest mount, a front mount reserve. And then that way I can grab that and pitch it and be clear of the trike and clear of most of the snag factors and everything that come with that.
Now, is this a steerable or like?
Mine's not steerable. I've got a round. Again, I think that's a good idea, is to fly with a steerable. You guys know how this gear is, so it's like you work on one thing at a time because it's paragliding gear. So eventually, I'd like to fly with the steerable. So I'd like to throw a round as my backup and then have a steerable for the front, so that I can avoid some things as I'm coming into land. Especially being in the situation that I'm in now. If I can avoid a simple tree, where if it's the only tree in the middle of the field or a fence or whatever, that could be, that's super helpful. I don't think there's anything wrong with the steerables. So, but right now I fly a really big round reserve. I'm going to come down nice and soft, and it's there on the front.
Nice. There was one other question. Sorry, I'm trying to do like 4 different things.
No
What
worries.
what was that other question that came up? Had something to do with. Just want to try to get to everybody. I know we're past the 1 hour mark. I did have a question about if there was anything that you could modify now to your setup. What's next? What would you do to make it more efficient or better or safer or whatever? Anything that you can think of?
Yeah, the trike itself is great. It's really stable under the wing. It doesn't oscillate too much. I don't think I get much more oscillation going on than what I see people getting flying pods. There's definitely some air drag. It's not as aerodynamic. You got wheels and you got a frame and you got a little bit more going on there. What I would like to do actually has nothing to do with being in the air. It has everything to do with being a little bit more independent on the ground. And that would be to add some, like an electric motor assist to it, and just have like a battery that could get me an hour of energy. So something that's lightweight, not too heavy. And that way, while I'm on the ground, I could move myself around a little bit easier. Or if I go land out somewhere flying cross country one day, I can somewhat get myself out of a situation or closer to the dirt road, or manage my wing back, get my wings better. The only problem with it is it's absolutely amazing in the air. It's great for people to launch me. I think it's a really great design with the suspension and everything that has going on. It isn't a wheelchair that allows for a lot of independence when you're on the ground. And so that would be the element to it that I would like to add. for the future. But I'm not really in too big of a hurry on that one either. So when the time's right and I meet the right people that know more about that and design and everything, then we can work on some of those other ideas. But honestly, right now, everything works so well. I'm just really trying to further my skills and how everything is working right now, and get better at thermal and get better at cross country and just try to be as good of a pilot as I can be.
Love it. What's your next big adventures that are coming up?
Oh man, next
Planned.
big adventures.
I mean, you're obviously on one right now. You're on the top of a hill.
Yeah.
Are you going to camp up there?
No, I'll go into town in a little bit here. And I've been on the road since last June, and I'm now moving to Washington. So I'm going to be doing a lot of flying in Chelan. I was just flying Chelan just a couple days ago.
Nice.
And yeah, so I really want to. There's some really great people there that are willing to help me out, and hopefully we'll do some pretty sweet cross country out there. So Chelan's on the list to spend some time. I've been flying so many different sites since last June that I'm kind of ready to be in a spot and learn an area instead of just always feeling like I'm having to learn a new area. And so there's that. But life is, for me, like life, one thing I learned from my accident is that balance in our life is super important. So making sure that I'm not, when I had my accident, I realized my whole life was about flying, and that life it's got a lot more going on than just flying. Right. And I wanted to make sure if I ever got back into it or back into anything else that grabbed me at that level of passion, that I don't make that my whole life. I make that a big chunk of my life. And that's where I go to really have those kind of experiences. But I also want to make sure I'm spending time, family, with my girlfriend. I'm going on Saturday to pick up a new puppy that I'm going to train for a service dog. That's a whole adventure in itself to train a dog and especially as a service dog and start working towards that. And got goals within the Joe Stone Foundation for off-road hand cycling and adaptive mountain biking. So we've got an event Labor Day weekend for a big mountain bike festival that we help bring the adaptive equipment to an already existing festival. So we're basically, the whole point of that is to build inclusion and bridge the gap between the disabled and able-bodied communities. In this case through mountain biking, and so that's what we've done for the last 6 years. And public speaking, I kind of taken a break since last June, and now I'm gonna jump back into that and really kind of restructure my business and start tackling that and hopefully make it more of a full-time career. Start building that aspect of my life. So yeah, there's a lot of components to it, and paragliding is just one thing I get to do to add into the mix. And I'm
Love it,
there's a question here.
Thankful for the community. Yeah.
There's a question here from the chat. Any interest in flying with the motor? And another question from Clark Kent.
Wait, what? You broke up there. Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any interest in flying with a motor? And also, when you're flying over Torrey, do you worry about landing on the beach?
Yeah. I do have interest in flying a motor. I don't have too much interest to make it happen right now, anytime soon. But I do think flying a motor would be sweet. And the cool thing about that is there's already trikes made for flying motors. They might need a little bit of adapting because usually a front wheel you steer with your feet. So it might be something a little bit different to make it work. But yeah, motor. I think a motor would be sweet. I think you can do a lot of things you can't do without the motor. So it opens up another side of what we're able to do with these wings and this fabric above our head. Torrey Pines, there's a couple things. So I'm trying to make sure I fly when the conditions are on so that I can top land. And so I'm paying very close attention to where everybody else is at when I launch, and close attention to what's going on while I'm flying. If I start seeing everybody get a little lower, it's like, get in now while I can. If it's not very strong, and people aren't very high, I don't go very far away. I did have one flight there though that was I thought I was going to sink out at one point and scratch my way back up and came in and barely pulled off the top landing, and it was all good and everything was great. But that was my moment of like, whoa, that was almost the beach. Like I was well below launch at one point.
Yeah, I was there. I was with you.
Yeah, Point of the Mountain's great for that because they taught me how to scratch. So that got me back up on that one. but the goal is to, if I'm gonna sink out, commit to it, turn head south and go towards where the lifeguard road is that comes down to the beach, and then call Torrey Pine's office. They'll get a hold of the lifeguards, and the lifeguards will come and help get me out of the sand, and then they'll just have somebody come and pick me up. So that's not something they would do for everybody, obviously, on foot, but that's kind of one of those areas where they've really accommodated my needs, with the underlying kind of, hey, just make sure you try not to sink out. Like, if it happens, we got you, but like, don't do it on purpose, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the beaches. The sand's hard, you get stuck. So I got support there for it.
Really good question from Yankee and SC1. He said, can Joe offer some real world advice on just how to bridge that gap between the abled and the disabled, and which community bears the biggest responsibility in that mission?
Wow, that's a great question. So in terms of from an able-bodied perspective, going to help people with disabilities, first and foremost, treat people with disabilities like you would anybody else, right? Don't assume you know more than them, or you know what's best for them, or talk to them like a child, or talk louder to them because you think they might not be able to hear you, or whatever. Treat them like you would treat anybody else. People with disabilities are really good about asking for help, and really good about understanding what they need and directing that. So you don't have to just shove your hands in and start helping. You don't have to do things without asking. Hey, it's one thing to go up and say, hey, can I help you out? It's another to go in and just start helping, because that doesn't always help the situation. So, I think just like you would anybody, like just because you saw somebody able-bodied tying their shoes, you wouldn't go up and put your hands in the middle of that and tie their shoes for them, right? So with people with disabilities, just, what would you do if it wasn't a person with a disability? If they need a hand, ask them. And if they say no, all good. Thumbs up, high five, see you later. You're good to go. Bridging the gap, though, I think it takes effort on both ends, but I do think it does come more from the able-bodied perspective, because, there's one thing with recreation and trying to bridge that, and there's another with everyday life. So we've got businesses, we've got city parks, we've got trails, we've got so many things in everyday life that aren't accessible to people with disabilities. And the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed in 1990. So we're 28 years past the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we're far from accessible in every aspect of where the general public is allowed to go. So, I think in what people don't realize from the business perspective is they see the extra dollars that go into making something accessible, and they don't factor in that if we make this accessible, it's not just for that one person who happens to be a wheelchair user or have some other disability. This is going to bring in their whole family or their group of friends, because they'll choose to go somewhere else if it doesn't. So a great example is this mountain bike festival I help out with. Last year, we brought, I want to say, with friends and family, somewhere between 60 to 70 people to this mountain bike festival. Between our volunteers, adaptive athletes, and their friends and family, probably closer to 70 people amongst the 600, it was 650 riders total. So we were a large percentage of that came to that, because now they're accessible to everybody. So within that, the best thing anybody can do, if you're trying to work with making something more accessible or help somebody with a disability, ask to get people with disabilities involved in that process, because they can help you do it the way that people with disabilities know that they need it. So it's the whole game of assuming doesn't really work, and thinking it doesn't really work until you live it. And then from the disability perspective, I think, that's where, people like myself, we need to just be getting out there, and we need to not be getting mad at everything. And we need to, and not that people are, I don't look at the disability community that way at all, that we are getting mad or that we're sad, or none of us want pity. We don't want to deal with any of that. We just want to live lives like everybody else. And so, but we just need to be getting out there more and advocating for ourselves and getting involved with organizations that do just that, and find ways to become more active and healthy and involved in our communities. Because if we're there, then the community see that there's a need, and then we'll see more access happen from there. So
how can people?
What's that?
How can people get a hold of you? I can almost guarantee that there's going to be people that are going to be interested to get a hold of you and further the conversation.
Yeah, totally. And I'm happy to, because that's a really big conversation, that question. And there's so many different elements to it. It's very complicated. The joestonefoundation.org, you can send me an email through that. Social media at Meet Joe Stone. That's my Instagram handle. Or just look me up on Facebook, Joe Stone. I've got a public page and just a regular friends one. Feel free to like one and send me a friend request for the other. A little bit of different information goes on between the two. And the Joe Stone Foundation has a Facebook page as well. So social media is a really great tool, really good way to get a hold of me. Instagram is probably what I'm most active on. So at Meet Joe Stone is really solid there. And any questions, I'm happy to answer. If I don't know the answer, I'm pretty well connected in the disability community at this point, and other organizations that support people with disabilities. And I'm happy to connect those dots to answer questions that might further what somebody else is trying to do, or provide some grant funding or help to somebody else that needs it.
Love it. I want to give away a couple things. We're going to give away a smoke machine. The winner chicken dinner of the smoke machine for this episode. What are we, episode 70? Episode 70, Chris Floyd. Congratulations, Chris Floyd. You are the winner chicken dinner. I'll be sending you an email shortly. You won a smoke machine. There is a disclaimer. The smoke machine for your paramotor may void the warranty. So if you have a brand new paramotor, be careful before you drill into the exhaust pipe, because you may void it. But that's it for that. We also want to give away the Toe Pro. Johnny Wisconsin, he sent me a whole nother batch of these magical little Toe Pros.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. You need one of these in your life. Did you guys, I hope it's a PC comment.
I believe we have.
Okay.
I was trying to get Tom in on the chat, but he already dipped. So I'm going to steer from his smile. He's in agreement with whom we have selected a winner, and it's from a person that really doesn't ever win anything. As a matter of fact, this is probably the first time they've won anything, so this makes it even more special.
Right.
Now, I'm going to read these comments. Now, I am going to alter at least one of the comments to make it socially acceptable for children. Okay?
Okay, do it.
Robert's mom is watching this.
Excellent.
Yes, my mom is watching. That's right. Thank you.
This is great.
David.
This is great, because your mom's really going to love me. Okay.
My mom said you're an inspiration, by the way, Joe.
So did Kylo.
Kylo, yeah. Kylo stopped by and he's teaching somebody. He's out there in the field. He's probably got somebody on radio right now, and he's watching the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, probably he's holding the phone up while he's like watching. Yeah. Like, you're doing great. Keep going. Yeah. So congratulations, Leah Catullo.
Yeah, Rip Man called it.
Comment number 1. Oh, boy. I'm naked. Comment number 2. Flying with a Toe Pro. Comment number 3. Can't record it without a Camel Toe Pro.
Mike Cotter from Fly My PPG LLC. 6 more Michigan PPGers to add to the incredible amount that are already existing. Right on, man.
Leah Catullo, congratulations.
Leah, congratulations. You won the Toe Pro.
58 women. You're the one woman out of 58 watching.
Yeah.
Make comments like that. It really makes it easy.
I think it was like 67 right 60. Up until I gave the winner for the smoke machine. Yeah, we did go a little bit long. Joe, I have one more question before we go to the post show. Will you come back on the show again?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, because this is great, and I love what you guys are doing, trying to spread some awareness and safety and stoke about the sport. So appreciate everything, big time.
Love it, man.
You've been a great guest tonight, man. It's been a pleasure to hear about your story, what you've been through, what you've
Yeah.
accomplished, and the fact that you're like, it's all in perception and mentality. It just strive and strive. And that's awesome. And it's awesome to hear of the community coming together too. And
There's comments right now that are Craig's son said, he said, but I'm naked too. I just don't brag. Oh man, you guys are funny. Joe, if you want to come to and fly Blossom too, I have 4-wheel drive trucks. We can drive right to the top.
Sweet.
I don't know if you're into that.
Well, we'll be flying together next time I'm down in Southern California for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Please let me know what's up, and maybe we'll do a like a video thing too. Dude, that'd be awesome if we could go on a decent day and go to El Capitan and back.
Dude, I just saw your video on that, and that looked amazing. So if we could make that happen in the future, that'd be one to remember.
Dude, let's do it, man. Seriously.
Yeah, totally down.
Okay. All right. I want to know when you're going to be here. Just shoot me a text or whatever, and I'll put in the calendar, and we'll make sure that we can make it happen. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you do that. If you haven't checked out some of the sponsors, please go support the sponsors. They're paying money for me to advertise. I want to make sure that it's worth it for them. Go buy some stuff from them, and make sure that you go get connected. Paraglidingtalk.com. There's all kinds of past shows where you can learn tons and tons of stuff. If you want to keep the show going, you can support the show on Patreon or PayPal. Please do that. Makes the show worth it for me. The guys were flying tonight. It was an epic night. I just had to plug my ears and say, la, 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 we're doing the show. I'm not flying. And so make it worth it for me. Invest in the show. Invest in some flying safety. That's what you're doing when you invest in the show. Unless there's anything else, we're going to go to the post show, the after show. It's like a after party. It's out of control.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. If I don't see you in the air, I'll see you on there. Have a great night. Thanks again, Joe. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot.